It's just after 9 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night. Welcome to Gun News Weekly. We got all kinds of news for you. There's been a sit-in. We got stuff from Orlando. Lots of stories from around the country. A few product updates. It's Gun News Weekly. Welcome, everybody. What's up, everybody? Tag Daddy joining you from South Florida. Ross is out in Colorado. What's up, Ross?
What's going on, Kevin? It's good to be here tonight. Hope everybody's having a great Thursday night.
You too, bro. I like that T-shirt. We'll get back to that later, though. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Eric, what's happening, bro?
Not much. What's going on, guys?
We have a winner in the L2D contest, and you were a big part of that on Instagram, so we'll be talking about that in a little bit, too, for sure. And Schwell's in the house. What's up, dude?
My cholesterol.
Orange and green. Are there any teams out? Well, there's blue in there. Are there any teams outside of the U that use orange and green?
Orange and green? I don't know.
The green screen behind you is just...
Yeah,
Can you make yourself in, like, Italy or something like that, or...
If the software was working with the Google Hangouts, yes, I could do all of that stuff.
Right on. Well,
I'll get it working. I'll figure it out.
hey, we did the intro on the fly. You guys don't even know what happens behind the scenes, and we weren't on Facebook or anything like that. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please pay attention to our sponsors. Please support them along the way. Make sure you check out Keybar. Make sure you check out Green Force Tactical. And we're going to be talking about, again, Grizzly Targets a little bit later. We'll be talking about a new giveaway from Lanzang Tactical in a little bit, as well as one of our very own out doing his thing. Q's out doing a competition this weekend, and Lanzang's part of that. So we'll be talking about all kinds of different things tonight. Where do we even start? I guess we'll just go to Orlando and kind of finish up what was going on, or finish up talking about the facts as we know them to be. As I said just before we went on the air, all of a sudden a bunch of stuff just doesn't add up. Let's talk about a few things. First of all, earlier this week, all of a sudden the news came out that the feds released the timeline and the, quote, partial transcript of some of the 911 calls, some of the things that the killer had said. And then the next thing I heard was that it was all redacted. It was all like they took out every instance of him saying anything related to the Islamic State and or the Quran, et cetera, et cetera. Then I guess there was a public outcry, and they re-released it. There's also now, again, they've given it out in full, and he does pledge allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, which is, again, if you go and Google him, I did, in the Wikipedia. If this is what was really said, this is absolutely a terrorist attack on America. If this is what was said. The other thing that's interesting about what they're telling us now is the timelines, and I wanted to talk to you guys about that. As we talked about it, none of us are G.I. Joe. None of us are again, we covered a lot of this in last week's show in terms of what would happen if you were in a club and something like that happened. However, now with the timelines being released, there's all these gaps. There's all these times that you could kind of suppose and draw conclusions that something could have been done. Time to text somebody. Time to make a minute phone call. Time to do this. Then there's all these other things. Hold on. Where's the one? There's a guy named John Carrillo out of Miami. He's on WZAB 880 The Biz, and if you look him up, Cardillo, Cardillo. He has an extensive opinion piece that's gained some popularity now, but basically what he's saying is, quote, I'm a former NYPD. Here's why I suspect there was more than one shooter in Orlando. He goes on to line it all out, and then at the end he basically surmises it by saying, my questions are these. How did an untrained novice with unfamiliar weapons, again, he's drawing conclusions from all the facts. The guy just bought the stuff, untrained. There's no evidence that he did a bunch of training on these weapons. Under incredibly adverse high-stress conditions, achieve reload and accuracy rates, and most importantly, a casualty count that exceeded those of the world's best competition shooters and special operators. How did he carry the necessary weapons and ammunition into Pulse nightclub on a hot Florida summer night without arousing suspicion of one patron, staff member, or bouncer before firing shots? He goes on and on and on, and again, I'm reading this not because we agree with this, but because it's important to point out that all these questions are being asked about this shooting. What do you guys think?
Did he read any of the information about the case? It's the person that wrote that or whatever you're reading from. It sounds like a bunch of gibberish to me because we know that he didn't make it into the building with the AR-style rifle. He used his pistol inside the building. We know he fought his way into the building. It wasn't a matter of him concealing it. Huh?
They're still saying that he had an AR.
No, he had one. It jammed outside of the club when he was engaging the officers to get inside. He threw it down, got into the building, used his pistol.
Where are you getting that from?
Inside sources here in Orlando.
Okay, but
that will be made public after the politicians get done doing this gun ban run that they're doing. Now, what this guy is saying, though, we know this for a fact, that he fought his way into the club. Remember, one of the security guards, which was an off-duty cop, saw him approaching and engaged him and was not able to stop him. So that's the first firefight. Then he gets into the club, starts killing the people, talks to SWAT or whomever, the negotiators, and then they go in and there's a second firefight. The first firefight
for you in the internal, just so you can catch up. Yes, sorry.
I read it the other day when you posted it yesterday or whatever. The second firefight was inside the club, but that first firefight was him going into the club. There was no, let me conceal this gun and sneak it into the club, like people are saying. So
okay.
His entire stance and article just reads like gibberish at this point.
And we don't know about...
There were reports of him being very calm during the 911 call, and this thing lasting over 3 hours. Is that the same information you're getting?
That's absolutely true. That is a fact. He went in, he fought his way into the club. Then there was the whole I have hostages. And for 3 hours they negotiated, and then, the reason why they negotiated is because he told them that he had explosives. This isn't a movie, this isn't some, they should have just went in immediately. No, they went with the information that they had.
And at the time they weren't sure if he was alone too.
Right.
That was
exactly.
Right. That's the only thing. The only thing they knew is that there was a shooter, and people were dying, and that they were hostages. They didn't know how many shooters. They didn't have all of the information that they needed. So they had no idea what they were going to go inside the building and have to deal with.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
Sorry. They've said he's gone there He's gone there for years, so he probably had a familiarity with the layout, also with the staff, the level of security or lack of security. So he probably had a good idea of also how people would behave inside that club. It was also early in the morning, so around last call. So people are probably intoxicated or tired or both, club drugs. So you also have that component. And we don't know if he had training or went to the range just by himself and would practice.
To answer that question, all you guys have to do is actually do some research. Look up what a Class D license or the security license that he had requires. Those licenses are not easy to get. You have to actually go and do qualifications to get that license.
Right.
So there is some training. There is some weapons manipulation that he has to demonstrate in order to get the licensing that he had. So it's quite simple to look that up and figure that out. Did he have any training? Yes. Security licenses aren't just handed out like CCWs where you go and you sit down with an NRA instructor and get it.
This guy goes into things like low light compensation, learning to avoid the noise distraction, intercepting moving targets under stress, and
he read some books. That's what that means. I want to show you how smart I am, and I'm going to write this long ass thing about it. I was a cop in come on, listen. We talk about how inexperienced cops are, how much training they do not get, and we're going to take information from this guy just because he was an NYPD detective? Come on, them dudes shoot maybe 50 rounds a year.
I pulled up the Class 2 requirements right now. 12 hours on use of firearms, 11 hours of operational safety and firearms mechanical training, and 8 hours for firearms qualification. That's the minimums.
I did that last week, just playing around in the house.
But so it
I hear what
invalidates this guy's argument though that he had no training.
Right, exactly. Everything he said, there's a rebuttal to it that makes him sound like a complete idiot. Where are we finding these stories, and why are we deciding to present stories like this without even actually doing research on our own to make sure that the information is valid?
The guy has some valid points, not all of them, but some of them are valid. You're saying every single thing he says is being.
He shot a gun. Oh, yeah, he did. That's a valid point. You're absolutely right. You're
He
right.
killed a lot
That
of
is
people.
a valid point.
That's the
He
second
killed a lot
valid
of people.
point.
Well,
That's a great valid point.
let me ask you this: Do you think that it's a valid point to raise the question that an average everyday dude, even with some training, could go in and do the damage that this guy did without, again, being rushed, being attacked, having more time to reload, having time to make phone calls?
The dude killed 28 people with a knife, slashing in a train station.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be a super scout sniper Navy SEAL dude. You have lots of people huddling in rooms, huddling in bathrooms. You have lots of people in small spaces.
That's a good point.
There was one young lady reported that he came into the bathroom and there were 8 or 9 people inside of one stall trying to fight their way through the wall on top of a toilet. People were being trampled. He just shot into it. And that was, think about how easy that is. You don't even have to be accurate. Just shoot into the pile.
And look, and the round's not going to just stop at one person necessarily, depending on how close he was. So
I doubt he was using Hornady critical defense that expanded and stopped after it hit one person.
Now, and again, since we haven't seen any footage, this is all objection, gun. This is all just conjecture as well. When you think about it, it's just us saying this is what I think happened.
I honestly, it would be interesting. You go find a facility that you can simulate this in. Take some, UTM rounds. Replicate the lights, the disco, all that jazz, and see what it would be like to see someone coming at you, and also the people running towards the exits.
The problem with that, Eric, is we know that that's what we're there doing, so it's not going to have the same effect. It's not going to have the same impact.
It's not going to be.
That's what you're doing.
It's not going to be a true one-to-one, but it would be from a stress level standpoint.
No, because everybody in there won't be drunk.
According to his 911 call, he had plenty of time and was in no rush. Once he got into that building, it was like shooting fish in a barrel.
So basically, you're saying that at that point, he was at one point in a club with enough time and space around him, and everybody huddled in masses away from him, so that when he wanted to, he could kill people, but there was no threat of him being.
It's also not.
He didn't get stopped. He didn't get stopped until the cops blew through the thing, and again, the amount of rounds that they shot into there, I haven't heard a round count, but it was a lot.
In the middle of all of this, he stops, he calls 911, and clearly for over a minute tells them of his intentions, he just went on, and they said he was very calm and calculated, and then he had another hour or two after that to do whatever it is he needed to do. He had all the time in the world, and nobody was fighting back, which I think is the message that needs to get out there. 100 to 1, 2 or 3 might go, but eventually, you're going to get him. It seemed like nobody was willing to put up a fight against him, at least from the evidence released so far.
I think a lot of that comes back to the time.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The time, right? The 2 a.m. How long were people in the club, right? I think a lot. He knew what he was doing. Between the drinks and all that time, I think you had a group of people that he knew that their level of resistance would be low.
Let me ask you this. A couple questions. Schwell, because you're in the area, I remember when the big story for Newtown was the funerals. I haven't seen any local coverage down here. I haven't seen anything on CNN with a bunch of funerals or people speaking. What's going on with that?
There's been a couple already. There's been a lot of vigils. There's been a lot of gatherings at the Lake Eola. We also had the people from Westboro Baptist Church come in and try and picket at the funerals, talking about their homosexuality, and you've had people joining arms. You've had the motorcycle groups coming out and trying to shield the families who are mourning. It's been happening. Whether there's national coverage of that portion or not, I think it's being lost in the gun debate.
I saw some pictures of the angels, the people dressed up as angels with the big, large wings, kind of shielding them from the Westboro Baptist Church protesters.
Yeah, it's funny how the best and the worst of our society comes out in these instances. We've seen nothing but an outpouring of support to that community, and then you have the Westboro Baptist Church come out and other religious leaders in different parts of the country making statements about how they deserved everything because they're living in sin and stuff like that. And it just tells you where we are as a society. Both
This is one of the
sides.
most divisive times, again, of our lifetimes.
Right.
The
It goes
64
in cycles.
thing. Yeah.
Right.
Couple more quick things on Orlando, and then we'll move on because obviously there's a lot of other things to talk about tonight. Thanks again for everybody tuning in. Appreciate it. Loretta Lynch, this is the gal that's in charge. She's, again, the Attorney General. And when this first came out, what's the first thing you said, Schwell? You said, watch the dad. I remember you were like, watch that guy. And then I started paying attention to him. I was like, yep, something up with this dude. Well, it's not so much him, but the killer's wife, who they had questioned, who they had reason to believe. I thought they had enough to believe that she was fully aware of what was going on, and we're going to arrest her or charge her with something. She is now gone. She's disappeared. They think she's out of state. And the feds do not know where she is. So, that's kind of scary to me. Not in a
What would you do? I mean, your husband just went and did one of the most horrific crimes in U.S. history. Your face is being plastered all over CNN, all over everything. I would.
Jason Bourne it and you're done.
It's hard to say because inside I want to say I'm going to be the good American. Yes, my wife or my husband, my partner did something heinous, but I'm going to make sure that I do everything right. But at this point, she can't even go to the supermarket. She can't go anywhere without people saying that looks like her or, something happening. So going into hiding, maybe that's all she's doing. Or maybe she did run. Or maybe daddy helped her pack the bags and get the hell out of Dodge. Who knows?
But going into hiding, I think, is almost natural. Like, it would be a natural reaction with the amount of coverage. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's happened in other cases too. But
human nature takes over in some instances. In my
yes, agreed. Yeah,
I honestly think that I would try and hide a little bit too. I would at least let things die down a little bit, and then I would probably turn myself in. But right now, during the height of all of this stuff, I would probably want to lay low initially, so that I'm not turned into some supervillain. Because that's what they're going to do. They're looking for someone to blame at this point.
I mean, for all we know, she's got legal counsel, and they have her in some apartment or house. Like, okay, you stay there. You're not moving anywhere, and that's it. No TV, no phone, no nothing.
Well, I was going somewhere with that guy's article, but you just took that left turn, got all angry. But I have a question for you too. What about all the people who instantly jump onto this and say it didn't happen, and it's just a monumental conspiracy from the government and the people that control the world to get the guns from the last place on Earth that they are so free? Because that kind of article is what proliferates and gives that group ammo to keep going forward and then going deeper to find the even more outrageous things that are being said. Which is, I haven't seen any bodies, therefore it didn't happen. Do you want to come back? I feel like we're on Family Feud. You could pass. We'll do some more stories.
It's not about passing. The folks that like to jump on that bandwagon, one, I think they're extremely insensitive because there are families out there mourning. This is huge. This is something big. You go downtown Orlando, you see it. It's right there. It's in your face. My sister was walking from her office. She works for Senator Bill Nelson here in Orlando. He's a Democrat. But she was walking from her office to get lunch. She had to walk through the area where they put out the candles and all of the crosses and the wreaths and all of that stuff. She had to go and see that. That stuff is out there. That stuff is real. But the conspiracy stuff, this is something, if they could take the guns, they would have taken them by now, is the way I look at it. I'm not saying let your guard down, but I don't think you need something like this as a catalyst to push an agenda. It doesn't work.
Segue. Here we go. All right. So immediately on Monday, was it Monday? Yeah, Monday evening. All hands on deck. 100-member Senate took roll calls on a set of gun control amendments, only to see each one rejected in turn. So the Senate tanked on all 4 gun control measures that they introduced right in the wake of Orlando, a massive terrorist attack that killed 49 people plus a killer. Nothing passed. Dianne Feinstein's there in full glory. Charles Murphy's universal background check bill. One of the big things we're going to talk about tonight is the language of all of this and how, because we're gun guys, we know that it's just absolutely crazy when we hear all the rhetoric that's being said on the TV over and over and over again, and during the sit-in, which we'll talk about in just a second as well. Again, they were looking to get delay a background check for those on a terror watch list. This is the big thing. They keep saying, "Oh, you're taking away their civil rights." No, I've always said and supported when I originally said this a week ago when this happened. It's delay the background check. Look into the people that are on these lists of known terrorists, people who have known ties to countries that are trying to kill Americans on a day-to-day basis, where we have soldiers that are on the ground fighting a fight, where they have pledged allegiance to these groups. Didn't say stop them from their rights if they're an American citizen. I said stop them from buying the gun that second and do what needs to be done to make sure that we're prudent and judicial. Whatever that, again, and I don't have the perfect solution for this thing. And I don't think anybody does. And I think that's a lot of the frustration with what's going on with all of this jargon that's out there.
I think part of it is the soundbite is, no guns for people on the terror watch list or the TSA no-fly list, and it sounds great in the soundbite, but the hard part is like what you said, and we've talked about privately, and that one, you don't know how people get on the list, you don't know how if it's incorrect or correct, and the due process piece, for being an American citizen, due process, if you're on there incorrectly, how do you get off of it? How do you even know you're on it?
There's people that are passed away that are on it. There's toddlers that are on it, and there's grandmothers that are on it.
I've heard 35% of the people on it should not be on it.
Well, and maybe that's the problem, is they started with saying, no fly list, and that's the list that that everyone is focusing on. Like I said, there's other lists.
Okay, let me.
Who have they been vetted by? Is it the government? Yes, but
I think
once again, we have to have some agency look into these people, correct?
But I think the hardest question is what the process is. You're never going to know how you're going to get on the list or get off the list, because then people know how to skirt the list. But the process is what happens if you're on the list. What's that process, right? Is it, sorry, you can't purchase something today, and the FBI contacts you and interviews you and goes through that process? Is it, I think one of the bills was a 3-day wait, just to go up to like an indefinite wait?
I think you should get a fast pass, and the next day you get in front of a judge.
Or something, right?
Yeah. If you've got nothing to hide, and you can present them with here's why I'm on your list. I went and visited my cousin that got married in Pakistan. I have never been there since. I've never, again, if you can justify whatever the thing that made the red flag go up.
I mean, I've got a lot of coworkers that live in India, that live in Pakistan, that have family in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and they'll go home once a year, and they have weddings and engagement parties, and they go home for those things, and then they leave and they come back to work the next week, and who knows what red flags that throws up. The other part is the NICS thing.
The other part is the NICS thing, and that's a whole thing. Do you believe that the NICS thing is something that's disposable?
Okay, before we move on too far, Kevin, I want to ask you one question. Which one of the 4 bills would have stopped this from happening? Because as far as I know, he was off all of the lists, or the list that he was on twice. He was off that list at the time he purchased the gun. He was off of the list at the time he committed the crime. What is the trigger? Okay, so we're going to make 4 bills, gun bills, that would have done nothing to solve this unique crime.
And that's part of the question, Ross, is if you were on the list, is it a 5-year window they go back, and that goes back into the NICS system, and what data is feeding into that system?
Eric, if you're off the list, you're off the list. There should be no, oh, you were on the list up 5 years ago. That means you've been cleared.
Since we're talking complete fantasy, I want to put Ross in charge of the list and let him make the list, and then I'll support that 100%.
I don't want to do that. Dude,
you're in charge of the list.
So subjective. The problem that I have with this whole thing is that it's subjective to the administration that's in office.
No, not anymore. You're in charge.
I'm not in charge. I want nothing to do with that list. I'm scared even talking about it's going to get me put on the list.
All right. Anyway, all the gun control measures got dropped. There was in Connecticut. We talked about that last week. Never mind. Sorry, I don't know why that tab was in there.
But they're actually voting. They actually won a vote to kill common sense gun legislation. With their sit-in, which is what we were originally talking about.
We're gonna get to that sit-in right here. Well, in just a second. The blurred language. Why is that popping up? Sorry. The blurred language is gun control's weapon of choice on guns.com. I encourage everybody to go check this out. Everything from arsenal of weapons to the definition of an assault rifle as it's understood by the Department of Defense versus the history versus the word assault, when it was added. I have, from watching the television a little bit and watching some of the Periscope/Facebook stuff, gun safety, gun control, military guns, military style automatic weapons, weapons of mass destruction. That was the one that came up today. They were calling the rifles, the AR-15, a weapon of mass destruction. Going to watch something at the end of the show from Dom Rosso and the NRA that they put out that I think is a pretty good video that we should watch at the end, and it's going to address some of these things. But anyway, the language out there is just phenomenal. I think that the average non-educated gun person thinks that anyone can go into a store right now, anyone can go to a gun store, a gun show right now, and get a machine gun, a fully automatic machine gun with the switch that goes safety, single fire, full auto. Just get it.
I heard a stat last night on the news, and I don't know where the stat came from. Someone, Ronald Reagan's son, was commentating and said that 45% of all gun sales don't require background checks. And I was like, well,
in what country?
I was like, where does that stat come from? I've been trying to.
Does he have a YouTube channel? Did he just make up a YouTube stat? Because that's what that sounds like. Like, how do you even track that?
It's a good round number.
It's a great, it's almost like it's about half, right?
Let's just say that he's right. Right? Hypothetically, let's just say that he's right. How would the government track that? Because if it's no background checks are happening, that means that these sales are not happening at FFLs, right? So this is a private sale, right?
How do they know?
How do you know that this sale is taking place? Come on, man.
His Yankee Marshal sends in written receipts. He sends in the yellow copy.
I'm like,
I mean, I know through the NICS system, there's been 208 or 9 million checks that have gone through NICS as of this past year, from 1998 through this year. So I just can't. I've been trying to find out where that stat came from because it came from somewhere, and I'm like, I can't find it. I'm like, where did he come up with that? Like, that's just
45%.
Yeah, it was.
Look, it's making Ross squint. Look at it. Look what the stat did.
You guys are killing me.
His head's gonna explode.
These next coming stories are gonna make your head explode, Ross. Are you ready?
Hit me.
Well, some people I think have seen this, but I'll just bring it up and kind of show it. This guy is getting kind of famous on the internet because he's claiming that the evil AR-15 that he shot. Is there the actual video on here? Sorry, I didn't scroll down. Yeah, it sure is. Well, let's just watch it. Well, it's coming back that it's out of a show called The Gay Army Out of the Netherlands, where flamboyantly gay men from Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden are taken to do activities traditionally considered quote-unquote manly. I don't think people know that that's the show that it came from, because this guy, to prove a point, was shooting his AR off of his nose. A bunch of people have posted pictures and memes of little girls and again younger kids shooting the AR-15. There was also another one where the reporter, I don't have that story here, but the reporter went to get a gun and he tried something. He test fired one and freaked out.
Yeah,
No, the reporter the
from the
reporter
Daily
that
News.
went and tried to get one couldn't get one because he had history with alcohol and beating his wife. And then the one reporter that said he got PTSD from firing an AR-15.
I just put it in the chat, Kevin. But yeah, the guy from the New York Daily News.
All right, I don't know how I flipped my tabs, but I did. So let's just talk about what happened yesterday real quick, and then we'll get into the again, which are some pretty crazy gun stories from this week that I want to talk about. Last night or yesterday afternoon, the Democratic senators decided to take the floor and walk up and give an emboldened speech about gun violence in their minds. And they then said, we're going to have a sit-in. And we're going to take over this floor until all the Republicans come back and we can have a vote. And that was their demand. And they threw out the hashtags, and they had – it almost felt like I was at church the way they were talking to me at a couple of different points. And it was sob story after sob story about, again, I don't mean to make light of people who have lost their lives and some of the stories that have happened with different gun-related deaths in America, but we all know the big numbers. We all know that those big numbers that they talk about, you take out the gang violence, you take out the inner city violence in places where you're not allowed to have guns to defend yourself, et cetera, et cetera. We know that it's basically it's not as big, and we know that the evil AR-15 really has nothing to do with it statistically. It's very minute.
Guys, if gun control worked, places like Chicago and LA would be wonderlands of zero gun violence, and they are not.
So John Lewis was the representative that kind of led the sit-in, and this is for people that don't know who he is. Civil rights leader. Man was almost beaten to death multiple times in Alabama marching with Martin Luther King. So if he wants to hold a sit-in, he can hold a sit-in. He gets a pass for it. I go back to the reason they held the sit-in is because people were refusing to vote. Why do we elect officials? We elect them to vote on the hard stuff, right? Regardless
but wasn't the sit-in strategic in they knew that they were going into recess and they knew that there was no way they were going to come back?
They recessed for their July 4th vacation, and they recessed early. They were asking for a vote, and the Republican RNC, the Republican because the Republicans run the House of Representatives, said we're just going to adjourn early so we don't have to vote. And this is kind of the main issue right now with government between both the House and the Senate. You have people in both parties that don't want to vote on the hard stuff. Regardless of what your opinion is, and we know here what our opinions are, but vote. Vote. That's why we've sent you guys to office. Vote yay or nay, and it's recorded into the register, and that's where it goes. And when people say we're not going to vote, we're going to push it back to committee.
Didn't they just vote Monday and shoot down all 4 of the other major gun control things that they were trying to get through?
This was different legislation. So this was I believe a compromise bill that Republicans and Democrats have both worked on.
Okay.
So it was, but regardless of that though, right? Why? At least vote, right? Don't kick it down the street. Don't pretend it doesn't happen. Are you that concerned that your constituents are going to be afraid with how you really vote? That you don't want to take a stand at all? Then why are you even there?
But aren't they all on both sides at this point, bought and paid for by some sort of?
I
get
can't
to that
tell
level.
you.
Don't you think at some point, somewhere, they're in somebody's pocket at this point?
I cannot tell you how many times Harry Reid did similar or worse things during his reign as majority leader, and then it always seems like oh man, they get all the breaks, and the Republicans get all the shame for doing exactly what they all do.
But it's both parties, Russ. It
Dude,
seems like whoever's in power.
There's nobody on the right side that's going to sit in. They will filibuster like they're allowed to do, but nobody's going to sit in and do a kumbaya in the middle of.
There was one
guy that did, and he got shouted down. There was one guy that was yelling at them that it was not a gun problem, that it was radical Islamic terrorists, and they shouted him down and got him out of there.
So, a couple years ago, Republicans did something.
It was the hot spot of the night.
And hey, Periscope and Facebook Live was loving it last night. But I think it shows the problem, right? Regardless of the party, people don't want to vote on these issues. And that's why we've sent them to Washington.
All right, but does it seem to me, it seems to me like more than ever, there is a side who've put their foot down and said, we're drawing a line in the sand right here, right now. You didn't do anything for Newtown. We're now demanding that you do something. And they got heard. A lot of people saw this. A lot of people know about this. A lot of people are now talking more and more about guns and listening again to all the rhetoric. Let's turn it back to what we were talking about, and then we'll go on to some other stories. Back to all the rhetoric that was spouted for 24 hours with no filter, with no counter to any of the falsehoods. And every person that spoke that I listened to, they twisted at least something, if not outright made up shit. That's a problem.
If you want to know the problem with politics, that's it. You can't tell me at this point that those politicians don't know the truth about the weapons and the semi-auto versus full auto.
Do they, Ross? Do they really?
Come on. Do you really think that after 7 years of pushing something, they haven't been told something that they didn't go and research? I mean,
that's why they have staff. That's why they have staff. The staff does the research. They sit there. They read they some do, some don't. I guarantee it.
Ignorance is not an excuse either. But you can't tell me you just can't tell me that they don't know. And you can't tell me that they don't have the common sense to see that these laws aren't going to help the situation. They didn't in Chicago. They don't in L.A. They don't in Washington, D.C. They don't in Baltimore, Maryland. They just don't work, and yet they sit on the floor and demand that we pass.
All they asked for was a vote, though, Ross. That was it. Just vote, yay or nay. Or if it goes down, it goes down. That's my issue.
I think I wrote here. Bottom line, bad guys still get guns, no matter what they sit in, no matter what they do. All right, let's all move on. We've got 9:40 after the hour. Thanks everybody for watching. Please leave your comments below. What do you think? Is Ross right? Am I right? Schwell right for being quiet, staying out of it? Probably. All right, next good story. When I saw this, and I saw it for the first time, and I guess we'll watch the video, I saw it somewhere else, and they acted like there was a wall around New York City, and that it almost got penetrated, but that everything inside is secure and safe, as long as they stopped it at the tunnel. If you missed it, motorists in truck packed with guns told cops he was rushing to save a teen. This is on ABC News. Let's watch the video real quick because it's a pretty good summary of what happened.
Is the picture of the vehicle in the video?
There is more to the story. Yeah, I'll share the vehicle a little bit too. I think our buddy Rob Pincus has a truck like that. Here we go. Uh-oh. I might have to refresh this one. Stand by. There we go.
Amy, we're going to turn to another scary moment here in New York City.
Scary moment.
Terrorism task force. 3 people were arrested, in fact, allegedly packing an arsenal of weapons in their truck. It was all discovered just outside a major tunnel into New York, the Holland Tunnel, and that's where we find ABC's Gio Benitez this morning. Good morning, Gio.
David, good morning to you. A truly unusual case happening right here at the entrance to that busy Holland Tunnel. It's the bizarre arrest at one of New York City's busiest tunnels during rush hour Monday. With terrorism units on high alert, the discovery of a distinctive truck. Police say it was filled with an arsenal of deadly weapons. 7 guns, body armor, knives, 2,000 rounds of ammunition, a military-grade helmet, an office...
Man, I better not get pulled over going to the range ever.
Initially stopping the truck because of a broken windshield.
He had the driver exit the vehicle, and when the driver got out, he noticed a .45 caliber handgun on the driver's seat.
But this morning, police say the 3 people from Pennsylvania told the officers they didn't intend to harm anyone. Instead, they wanted to rescue someone, a 16-year-old girl who they say was in a New York drug den. The truck's owner, John Cramsey, who calls himself a rebel on Facebook and owns a gun range, posting these photos before the arrest with this message. This young lady from Wilkes-Barre is scared and wants to come home. Last night she woke to find her friend's body next to her in the same bed where her friend died of another heroin overdose. The mother of one of those arrested speaking with a...
Does that look familiar, like someone from a cartoon from way back when that was in a van too? Or is it just me?
Next, where'd they go?
Where's Shaggy?
You mean where's Scooby?
Where's Scooby?
Yeah.
Where's Shaggy? Because there she is for sure. All right, so.
News overnight.
They weren't going out to harm anybody. They were going out to save.
Cramsey's own daughter dying of an accidental drug overdose just 4 months ago. He posted this video of her on his Facebook while grieving.
It'll all get better.
I think when he lost his daughter, it just kind of broke something inside of him. It sent him on a mission to help other families.
This morning, police say they have found the 16-year-old girl Cramsey was looking for, but she told them she does not need to be rescued.
Okay. So many things to talk about here.
Know your state's laws before you go packing heat.
I'm telling you, gray man all the way. They went low profile on this one. Total low profile.
Low pro, and it's like Dog the Bounty Hunter, something-esque. Something about it is just very... Now, if the guy has issues, if the guy's got serious mental... He's been disturbed by the fact that his daughter committed suicide, and these things are now something that he focuses on to the point that he's making these kinds of irrational decisions, that's one thing. But to jump in that vehicle... One of the guys who ran the range in another story that I watched, videotape, said, oh, he probably didn't even know it was in there. He's got that kind of stuff, to and from his house in the range and here all the time. No. If you own a range and you own guns like this guy does and you have this vehicle, you better damn well be aware of where your guns are. But the point is, he had 2 co-conspirators with him, and they were going to either kidnap this girl and take her back, but they had guns with them to do it by force. Let's be real.
If you're gonna roll in like a Tonka truck billboard, and at least have the window not have a crack in it, because if you've ever driven into New York, the Holland Tunnel on a good day has about 100 police officers swarmed around it. And
on a good day, what does that mean?
On a good day, it just has cops everywhere. I mean, on both sides, right?
We're talking about a gentleman with a bunch of guns in his car that are illegal in the state of New York, illegally crossing state lines with those firearms.
Illegal
as well
in
as
New Jersey?
In New York.
But isn't he coming from New Jersey?
He's crossing from New Jersey into New York. He's attempting to drive into New York City by entering that tunnel. They had jurisdiction.
Are those guns illegal in New Jersey as well, I guess? I'm sorry, that's my question.
I'm sure they are. Think about how many people have been arrested for transporting guns through New Jersey that legally had their guns, So,
right.
But beyond that, this dude was Facebooking. I'm 11 miles from the tunnel. I'm
I'm coming for you.
I'm coming for you. I'm gonna save you, little girl. I'm gonna save you. I'm 11 miles from New York City. We're heading to Brooklyn. We're gonna save her. All of this screams. If we would say this guy was crazy. Let's just face it. That's what the first thing that popped up in your head. If it was him by himself, you'd be like, this guy's just a whack job with a bunch of guns, and he was just doing something stupid. But again, once I read the part about the daughter dying just 4 months ago, we're talking about 4 months ago. Something isn't right, but we're talking about someone. I think he owns the gun store in Pennsylvania. They know the laws in New York. Everybody in Pennsylvania knows New York's gun laws. They know them by heart. I guarantee it. And he's a gun store owner. I know he knows. Something's not right here. And people around him should have identified that something wasn't right. And the fact that they loaded up the car and decided that they were going to go from state to state. They went from Pennsylvania to New Jersey to New York. They were going, that's the route they had to take. But boy, oh boy, this is not going to end well for them. None of them.
No,
got a
this jail term-
program called Enough is Enough, and that's in order to help addicts and save people. According to the guy that's also the manager at the Higher Ground Tactical Indoor Shooting Range. Yeah, he posted on Facebook.
It's not going to end well. It's just not.
Let's hope he gets the help he needs, if that's what he needs, and hopefully he can recover from this. I believe this classifies as a felony at this point.
Hold on, they're being held in a jail in New Jersey. Why would that be if it puts them under New York jurisdiction? I'm curious.
I don't think they got into New York, right?
I don't think they didn't get into
the New Jersey side.
They were on the New Jersey side still. They never made it into the tunnel, but those guns are illegal in New Jersey as well, so that's who's going to prosecute them.
Crazy.
You know, it is what it is.
Not a good look.
No, not at all. And the timing couldn't be any worse. But, you know, again, let's hope he gets the help that he needs, and let's hope they all get the help that they need. You know, it sounds like his motives were just, and it's just his execution was piss poor. I mean,
he tried. He got an E for effort. Is that what you're saying?
Right. The way the execution was just like, who's to say that they weren't expecting him? You know, maybe 3 or 4 months down the line, we'll hear that somebody actually called ahead and told them to look out for the Tonka truck.
He's running hot in the green and black truck.
Right. You can't miss it, you know.
Can't miss it. He's got a broken windshield and the Second Amendment written on the window.
Right.
Yeah. Here's where it gets good. All right. Controversial next topic. Controversial times. Home invader poops himself, hides behind the door after being shot by an armed woman. That's what happened, but guess where it went down? Ocala, Florida. It's a good one. A man in Ocala is recovering from gunshot wound after being shot by an armed homeowner during a home invasion. I'm going to give him a shout out. Victor Alex Etherington. He's in intensive care at the local hospital. He broke into he kicked in a door and he chased the female. Then she got a gun. She shoots him. The victim was not identified right away. The woman told her, I'm sorry, this is when she was on the phone with him. I had the other part highlight. Once inside, she locked herself in the bedroom closet. He forced his way into the bedroom. Once inside, the man took off his shorts, quote, which he had defecated in, unquote, and forced his way into the closet, at which point she shot him in the stomach again. He was way hammered is the reason that all this went down. And looks like he'll recover, but she did it all with a .22, and it saved her. Hold on, stand by. There's more.
I think the fact that he shit his pants probably helped her out.
Now, I was looking back at some older videos, and I was trying to do the math on it, and I can't even do it. But in case some of you are unaware, we're all friends. Ross is my brother, Schwell and Eric. We're all friends. I'll just get to Schwell steals guns. So much that there's a hashtag, Schwell steals guns. And if you go check that out, you'll see what we're talking about. But so when I saw this headline this morning that 7 guns and ammo were stolen from a parked car to Davie Plaza, my antenna went up. And then I saw this, and I was upset that he did not call me so that we could grab something to eat while he was in town. But I'll let you watch it and learn.
Imagine you're a customer. Every new Toyota.
Forget that. We'll talk about Range Rovers, cool Range Rovers. And Schwell's vlog. Make sure you go check that out. Being posted over on gunnewsweekly.com.
You're a jerk.
There we go. And yes, all the newscasters in South Florida are just like this.
Oh, there he is. Worth of guns out of a South Florida car. Someone catching the crook in the act, recording it all on camera. Now, police want to know why this man is gunning for trouble. 7th Elisa Bezios is live.
Gunning for trouble.
The very latest. Elisa, good morning.
So hot.
Good morning, and ladies, as you can imagine, police, they're obviously really worried about this guy because he stole several guns. So now the search is on to find him. And thankfully, we have a pretty crystal clear image of what this guy looks like.
Yeah, we do.
He did that in the middle of the day. And watching the video, he's just wearing like a dress shirt. He's got a tie and like khakis on, and it just looks like someone who doesn't need to be robbing cars.
But that's exactly what this man is doing, pulling case after case out of this Ford F-150.
as a bystander secretly captures the theft on his cell phone. What else this thief may not have realized, those cases contain hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of guns.
So stop right there. That's the best part of the report.
There's a DP. Come on, hundreds of thousands of dollars in guns.
7 guns.
They're gold-plated, 12. Come on. They're
$20,000
gold-plated.
Glocks, bro. Don't front.
I did not get $100,000 for these 7 guns. I got $75 and some gum for these guns. Okay, they were not worth $100,000. Thank you very much.
The valued MTAR Tavor.
So the MTAR. Someone must have been on Call of Duty picking up these names, huh?
Here we go. Let me finish.
Just like these. 4 rifles, 3 pistols, and a chest rig like this one. Dorian Jumper is the owner of some of them.
It makes you pretty angry because, like, that's 6 guns, and you don't know where those will end up.
Jumper has been shooting with relatives for years. He and his friends headed to this Davies sushi restaurant before an afternoon at the range. The staff announced that someone's blue truck had been burglarized. The thief punching the lock open with some kind of tool.
And we learned that there was a person who happened to get the whole thing on video, which was very fortunate.
Because clearly this is not your everyday car burglary.
Obviously, we don't want firearms getting into the hands of criminals. If they get into the wrong hands, we know the damage and you know the dangers inherent with that.
Jumper sharing pictures of his stolen weapons, hoping someone will be able to help crack the case. He too.
Yeah. Anybody? Everybody see any black Glocks randomly at the range?
Worries about where they could end up.
We're all very aware of gun safety, and we go to the range all the time, and, you know, it's pretty safe. I'm very disappointed, and I suppose, yeah, angered that, you know, my stuff has been taken.
All right.
Here's another look at who police are trying to track down.
If you know anything, call 954-493-TIPS.
I mean, that Condor rig's at least $15 right there.
Well,
Like
I
15,
didn't.
$20.
I didn't call. I didn't swat you.
You're such a great friend.
In all honesty, we all know I'm joking. But again, this dude was ballsy, yo. This guy was just like, hey.
Honestly, listen, I do this for a living. He had to know those guns were in there. That wasn't random at all. This guy was well dressed. He was probably in that restaurant, heard them talking, or noticed that they looked like they were going to the range. Saw them get out of their truck and watched one of them take their gun off their hip or something. I was like, well, I'm gonna go. You know, this looks easy. There's no way that was random. Out of all of the cars that hit in that parking lot, that's the one he hit, and there happened to be $100,000 worth of guns. I can't even say it.
Oh, come on. The Condor rig alone's what, $50-$60? Maybe? I don't know.
But, you know,
it's not going to take them long to track down that Volkswagen Gold vehicle in the state of Florida, in this county. They're going to find that.
I'm sure that they already know who he is. I'm sure somebody saw the news and was like, hey, that's Schwell.
Tony!
He lives in Daytona Beach. You know, I'm sure that's what's going to happen. He didn't know the guy was filming him. It gets no clearer than that. You know, so it's
How
like.
do you not? Yeah.
Don't do crime. Just that easy. These days, you're going to get caught.
Someone's got a camera.
Just be mindful. That's where our folks at Conceal Pro can help you out quite a bit. If you call them up, I'm sure they can make a custom box for your vehicle where you can actually secure your guns and not have to worry about someone just walking into your truck and taking your 7 bags or whatever he took out of that vehicle. I can't really blame the gun owners, the guys that are on their way to the range. They stop to eat lunch on the way to the range. I heard people saying, well, you shouldn't stop and you should go straight to the range and then do what you need to do. Come on, this is America. I should be able to lock my stuff in my car and go have something to eat and then get back in the car and go do what I need to do. So I don't really blame them unless they left the car unlocked. Then that's negligent on their part.
You know, they really ought to make a reporter's research what they say. $100,000 for 7 guns.
Hundreds of thousands. That indicates
that's absolutely absurd.
At least
gotta wonder where that number came from. Maybe it's in the police report. Maybe he wants to get, you know.
Again, it's part of that whole let's make our story bigger than it needs to be. You know, it's guns, hundreds of thousands of dollars for these 7 guns. Wow.
Wow.
All right, I got a few more stories. I didn't realize it was already almost 10 o'clock. I got a few more stories to get through, so let's do it real quick, and then we can push the giveaways to next week because that's always easy. But we're gonna give away quite a bit of stuff. We'll do the L2D one tonight, but we'll do the other ones next week. Real quick, Maine restaurant owner bans owners and supporters of AR-15 from the restaurant.
I read this article. It's
if you own this gun or you condone the ownership of this gun for private use, in quotes, you may no longer enter either of my restaurants, said Ann Verrill. She put it on her restaurant's Facebook page and told her customers that the owners of the firearms or those who support it are no longer welcome.
Do you think she's going to get sued by the government?
Who knows?
I mean,
she has to refuse service. This isn't a refusal of service. This is saying you're not welcome. There's a huge difference between me coming into your restaurant and you saying, hey, do you like guns? Yeah, sure. Get the hell out. Then you may have an issue. But her posting something on her social media, the government can't do anything to her because that's freedom of speech at that point. You know, she actually has to do something to someone in order for them to bring a case against her.
And I'm surprised it's Maine. I mean, Maine's a pretty pro Second Amendment state.
I can't tell you one thing about Maine.
It's got it's a beautiful state. If you've ever gone, it's a gorgeous state to go drive through. But everyone's got a gun up there because you got bears and moose and stuff.
Got it.
I read that story as a ploy to get customers.
She's actually losing customers.
Yeah, but
the Boston
I thought maybe she thought that she would get some liberals to say, "Oh yeah, we support that. This place is safe. Nobody has guns."
It's Maine. They're like, have a good day.
Right. Don't file bankruptcy too soon, lady.
Exactly.
I want to talk about this story next week. There's a story that a quadruple amputee vet shot himself after a VA crisis hotline told him to calm down and call back later. I want to vet this story a little bit further, but doesn't look good. We're gonna save this one for when Casey's around. Let's do the L2D giveaway. We'll do quick shout outs about a couple other quick things, and then we'll get out of here with the Dom Rosso video. It's about 3 minutes long, but I'll just roll that at the end. So L2D Combat, local company, again, changing from their first rendition of their slides for their Glocks. They're moved on to a different version of them. They're on to their version 2. This is for a Gen 4 Glock, and all you had to do was go over to Instagram and join their Instagram. And where did we start with them? Like 180? Was that the number?
It's like 200, 180, something like that. It was low.
Yeah. We got them over 500, but they got themselves over 500. We assisted, but that was part of the giveaway, was go there and be a part of that. My Instagram got over the goal number. I know Joe from 13C got a bump. Eric, you saw some new subscribers as well, I'm sure.
I did. They're as of tonight, they're at 529.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do the old thumb scroll and then stop on a winner, and we'll go from there. So I'll do it like this. I'm going to let it go.
Scroll back down. There. No, never mind.
That person. The winner is. Oh, this is pretty cool. This guy's legit. Well, he's a legit gun guy. Certified gunsmith and a graduate of the Colorado School of Trades Gunsmithing. Mr. Arden. I'll put that out there because I don't want to put out his whole name. But I have your Gmail. I will shoot this guy an email. Let me take a picture of that. You're the winner. We'll make arrangements to get it to you. Congratulations. Thanks to L2D Combat. Make sure you check them out on Instagram. Check out their website for slides, all kinds of great stuff. You'll see a bunch of stuff that we'll be doing with them in terms of the different coatings and some of the other things that they're doing these days. Make sure you dip. check out tagdaddy.com. There's lots of new stuff on there. The whole Kanai line is on there. We've got product from CAA. I'll be putting up the bags from IWI soon. But there's a lot of new stuff going on there. I think you can still use Dad as a coupon code. If not, shoot me a quick message and I'll give you a coupon code for free shipping this week. But all the brands that we support are there, from Nate Squared Tactical to Green Force, et cetera, et cetera. And then also check out everydaycarrylife.com, where you can check out companies like Keybar. Check out our hosts every week on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and at Gun News Weekly. Schwell, you've been putting up the vlog. I appreciate it.
It's fun, and it's kind of easy doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I figured out that vlog is actually vlog, thanks, Kevin, I feel much more intelligent doing it.
All right. It's fun to watch. Eric, everyone can find you TGL thegearlocker.net on Instagram.
On YouTube and on the internet. Instagram is TGL Eric, because someone stole the Gear Locker. And yeah, we'll be having some videos coming out the next couple weeks.
Awesome. Ross, thanks for jumping on as always, bro.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it always.
Absolutely. And I think I got everything. Oh, the Brody box. We'll be adding some more stuff to that and then getting that out probably right before the end of this. Well, maybe right at the beginning of next month, because I'm waiting for a couple other things to show up that might have some cool things we can toss in there. We'll talk more about that next week. And that's it. Thanks to Frank and everybody that has supported us along the way. Schwell, real quick, the channel for anybody that wants to watch me and you run around in the virtual digital world of Battlefield 4 on Sony PlayStation.
I haven't searched it, but if you search GNW Gamers, it should come up on YouTube. It's still listed as ACU Gamers on Twitch, so either one will work for you. So ACU Gamers or GNW Gamers on YouTube.
I was killing it the other night. I was crushing it.
You were doing something.
As a gamer. Had my A game on, Ross. You would have been impressed.
I got to get me one of them PS4s.
Yep. Well, on a serious note, as we're signing out, we all here believe in your right to carry a gun in the United States of America, because the bad guys have them. Your Second Amendment says that you have that right, but you also have an inalienable right as a human being. If you're just on an island and everybody had sticks, I'd still believe that you had the right to have a stick, and even to make it pointy, so that if someone attacked you, you could do what you needed to do to protect yourself. That being said, we're going to leave with this this promo from Dom Rasa that came out. Again, it's 3 minutes long. I'd appreciate it if you watch it, because I think it's worth it. He's got a lot of great points, and I think it kind of sums up what we're up against this week and some points that need to be made. Appreciate everybody jumping in. Thanks again to our sponsors. Please share this with your friends, and we will see you next week. We do have guests coming up. We just had some glitches and some things and some other things that we're still working on that I'm not allowed to talk about, because I'm not allowed to talk about things that we're working on anymore, because they take a long time. But they're coming. Later. We'll see you next time.
ISIS doesn't have to kill a single American to bring our country to a standstill, as long as someone else does the killing for them. San Bernardino sound familiar? Maybe the Boston bombing? Or maybe even Fort Hood. Those weren't ISIS attacks, and they didn't need to be. Their greatest capacity to inflict suffering, panic, and paranoia is by inspiring people already living here to act on their own. How do you stop an American citizen from reading Islamic State propaganda or watching ISIS videos online and radicalizing and deciding to go shoot everyone in Times Square? That problem is on the president's desk every single day. And our failure to respond to that problem proves how weak we've become. Rather than addressing this obvious threat with simple, clear solutions like hardening our defenses or getting rid of the dangerous lie of gun-free zones and allowing Americans their Second Amendment rights anywhere inside our border, The liberal media, PC politicians, and Hollywood know-it-alls attack people like me. They say I'm the problem. Really? Me? Because I decided to tell the truth about cowards who use women and children as human shields, who twist their religion to murder innocent people? I'm the problem. Because I decided to educate my fellow Americans about the way terrorists think and the things they're willing to do. I'm the problem. This is what happens when the country's run by political and media hacks who never even thought of serving their country. Only in Washington is it possible for anyone to believe that hundreds of people decided to grab AK-47s and mortars and started attacking the American consulate in Benghazi because of a stupid video.
This is a response to a hateful and offensive video.
This is in response to a video that is offensive.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies. That video
is a crude and disgusting video. Sparked outrage throughout. Easy targets, sheep, people stopping them. People they know don't have the training to fight back. If I'm a suicidal terrorist, who do I want to run into on my killing spree? Armed civilians who are immediately going to return fire, or an unarmed, untrained person who will cower in the corner and beg for mercy? I can't believe that I have to say this, but it doesn't matter which choice you make. A terrorist is going to want to kill you either way. These people don't care what you believe. They don't care that you have a family, and they don't care that you volunteer at Red Cross. Terrorists don't think like you. That's why they're terrorists. They will not stop wanting to kill you. And we can't change that fact, but we can change our mindset. We need leaders who will get rid of useless gun-free zone laws that give killers a clear advantage over the law-abiding. Leaders who understand the best asset we have to defend ourselves is the freedom of the American people. And the longer it takes us to realize it, the more innocent people will die.